So now we're going to look at the astrology of July 2021, but we're only going to look at the first 2 weeks of July. I want to chunk this down. I will be doing the rest of July in a separate video. Okay, so a couple of general considerations about July for us, and these are just sort of the major points of July. July, the first week of July, which I'm calling the first week of July, July 1st to July 3rd. It's only 3 days, but boy, is it a 3 days. Let me tell you. And the reason for that is because in week 1, Mars in Leo will activate the Saturn Uranus square. It makes an opposition to Saturn, and on the 1st and on the 3rd, it makes a square to Uranus. Interestingly enough, of course, this is right around the time of the birthday of the United States, right? July 4th. So this energy is going to be very powerful for the United States. And I will be doing a separate video on the US and these aspects to the US chart and what's going on with that. So you can keep your eyes peeled for that. Week 2, we have Venus activating the Saturn Uranus square. Remember, Venus is also in Leo. Mercury will go out of its shadow on the 2nd week. That happens on the 7th. And then we also have a new moon in Cancer, so new beginnings. Week 3, Venus and Mars make their biennial conjunction. Every 2 years, they come together, and it's going to be coming together in Leo. The last 2 conjunctions of Mars and Venus, which would have been 2 years ago and then 4 years ago, right? If my math is correct, occurred in Virgo. And Virgo is a sign associated with perfecting, right? Making adjustments, making necessary adjustments. Leo is the sign of the heart. Leo is a sign of the heart and a sign associated with love. So Mars and Venus making that conjunction in Leo, coming off of their activation of Uranus and Saturn, talks about us having to relate in a different way, starting a new cycle of that. We also have in week 3 the Sun making an opposition to Pluto. Pluto is in Capricorn, right? It's been in Capricorn since 2008. So when the Sun moves into Cancer, that's when we have the Pluto opposition of the Sun. Week 4, we have a Mercury sextile Uranus. I believe that's the 3rd of 3 because Mercury was retrograde. And the sextile deals with our lower mind and our higher mind communicating with one another. We have a Mars in conjunct Pluto, which is always fun. Not really. That's not really fun. We have Venus ingress into Virgo, and of course the Sun in the 4th week will ingress into Leo, and the Sun is the ruling planet of Leo, so the Sun is very strong in Leo. And we also have a full moon in the sign of Capricorn. It's a very powerful full moon as well. On the 5th week, we have Mercury making an opposition to Pluto, right? We have the Sun make an opposition to Pluto. Now Mercury makes an opposition to Pluto. We also have Mercury ingressing into Leo. Jupiter retrogrades back into Aquarius on that 5th week, and Mars ingresses into Virgo. So after this powerful Mars in Leo, it moves into Virgo, which changes the energy of Mars. So, all right, let's take a look at the first week here. So Thursday, July 1st, 2021 is a 13-4 vibration. I get these vibrations by adding 7, 1, and 5. So we get the 13-4. This is the death card in the tarot. So there is the energy of letting go. Letting go. It's also a 4, so it's about building. It's about letting go in order to build. We have the moon in Aries, so we're starting the month. We're starting the month of July, which is with the Sun in Cancer. and the ruling planet of Cancer being the moon in Aries. So we know that we're coming in, I hate to use the expression guns blazing, but it's kind of a guns blazing kind of way to come into the month. Hopefully it's not literal, right? We have Mars and Leo opposing Saturn and Aquarius. We also have the Sun and Moon making a last quarter crisis in consciousness square on the 1st. This is part of the lunation cycle that began with that new moon's solar eclipse in Gemini. So this last quarter crisis in consciousness square is still connected to that eclipse energy. And we know that eclipse energy is very transformational. Eclipses are when doors open. It was a North Node eclipse, so it is about moving into the unknown future. So we're sort of moving into unknown territory at this time. And right now, the opposition between Mars and Saturn feels like 1 foot on the gas and 1 foot on the brake. So there's, and that creates a tension. So it's like, it reminds me of that song back in the day, should I stay or should I go now? If I know there will be trouble, and if I go there will be double. So come on and let me know, should I stay or should I go? That's kind of the energy of that opposition. Oppositions are not about action. Oppositions are about awareness. And Mars is a planet of action, and Saturn is a planet of the structure of our consciousness, or the structure of a situation, or the structure that's needed. It is an Aquarius, so Aquarius is about humanitarian endeavor. So we may have opportunities to do some humanitarian work at this time. Friday, July 2nd is a 14-5 vibration. That is the temperance card. And so it's requiring us to be temperate, as it were, with the moon in Aries. Not always easy, especially because Mars is in Leo, right? And it's like, ah. And then July 3rd, 2021, it's a 15-6 vibration. This is the devil card in the tarot. The moon has shifted into Taurus, which is helpful. We have a sun in conjunct Saturn. So the sun in conjunct Saturn, things aren't quite clear. Things aren't quite, the sun is illumination. So there's a crisis brewing with that, a need to change our minds about things. But while that's happening, then we have the Mars square Uranus, and that's when things break. That's when the dam breaks. Incidentally, July 3rd is my birthday. So, okay. So let's take a look at the Mars-Saturn synodic cycle. On the right here, we have the opposition of the 1st. See, this is actually for Washington, D.C. And we have Mars here in the 12th house, and we have Saturn in the 6th house. You can see Venus is pretty close to Mars here. And next week, Venus will be taking the place of Mars and doing the same thing that Mars is doing this week, opposing Saturn and then squaring Uranus. So this is a pretty powerful chart, and we can see here that this opposition has that Uranus in a very, very tight T-square. The open leg of the T-square is in Scorpio, and it's requiring us to transform and to let go. Remember, July 1st was a 13-4 vibration, which is the death card, which is the Scorpio card. So there is something that we need to let go of. While we hold the tension of Mars and Saturn. So this Mars-Saturn opposition is actually a fruition point. It's the opposition is when we become aware of what was seeded at the new moon phase of these two planets, or the initial conjunction of when these two planets come together. Because we're dealing with Mars, Mars has a 2-year cycle. And so it makes an opposition. I mean, it makes a conjunction. It makes the opposition and then comes back to conjunction within a 2-year time period. The conjunction that started this whole thing was actually occurred in 2020. It actually occurred March 31st in 2020. And for those of you who don't remember or don't care to remember, that was pretty much when we went into lockdown. We went into lockdown right around the spring equinox. And so on the 31st of March, we were sort of locked down, everybody, right? And what we had a conjunction between Saturn and Mars here in the 6th house. This is the United States chart, so. But you know, the conjunction is the energy is similar. It's happening at 1 degree of Aquarius. Now, later in that year, in 2020, this is where Saturn and Jupiter came together for the start of their 20-year cycle at the same degree, 1 degree of Aquarius. You know, a lot of people are connecting this with the Aquarian age. Well, we're in the Aquarian age. We've been in the Aquarian age for a long time. But this is, you know, there are times when we know that we feel that it's like, to a certain extent, do or die with that stuff, right? And so what's interesting about this particular chart is that it occurred in the chart of the United States in the 6th house of health. And there was a lot of stress within the health system, of course, and we know here in the United States that our healthcare system is a mess, mainly because we don't have universal health care. So, and we went through a pandemic without it, right? So anyway. So this was the initial conjunction of this opposition. So we are seeing now what was planted at that time. Let's look at the Sabian symbols for this. So the initial conjunction occurred on 3/31/2020. It's actually a 3811 vibration, which is a Scorpio vibration. It's a Scorpio vibration. It is actually the Queen of Cups in the tarot. It occurred at 1 degree of Aquarius, the same degree as the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction that would occur months and months later. The Sabian symbol for 1 degree of Aquarius is an old adobe mission in California. The power inherent in all human works to endure far beyond the worker's lifespan, a concretization of an ideal. And what is the ideal of Aquarius? Equanimity. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, perhaps. Humanitarianism. I am my brothers and sisters' keeper. How about that? And for the Sabian symbols for the opposition, we have Aquarius at 13 degrees. And we have a barometer, the ability to discover basic natural facts that allow us to plan in advance for action. This is anticipation. So a barometer measures the environment, right? And so we need to measure the environment. Well, it was 116 in Portland yesterday. That's pretty hot. You think we have a problem? Opposite, the Sabian symbol for Mars at 13 degrees of Leo, an old sea captain rocking himself on the porch of his cottage. The quieted mind's recollections of crises and joys long past. Quiet recollection. Quiet recollection. So we're sort of in between this energy of anticipating what's coming and then remembering, it may be the glory days. That's probably a little bit too, that's not quite right. But remembering what, to a certain extent, the joys and the challenges of a life. And, you know, there is this energy of, you know, the old sea captain, and when your ship comes in, right, that expression, when your ship comes in, when you have when the journey is coming back home, right? When what you sent the ship out to get comes back, right? So there's this energy of cause and effect with this. So we also want to look at July 3rd, because July 3rd, remember July 2nd was just the moon in Aries, but July 3rd, we have Mars square Uranus, and this is when the dam breaks, right? So here we have the actual chart here occurring. So July 3rd, 2021 is the 15-6 vibration. It is the devil card, but it is associated with the sign of Capricorn. And Capricorn is about taking responsibility. And so this is a time of taking responsibility. We have a square between Mars and Uranus. Now, Mars is now at 14 degrees of Leo. We always round it off, right? And Uranus is at 14 degrees of Taurus. This is a very explosive combination. It is a first quarter crisis in action square. So this is when action is taken. This is when action is taken. And I know that I said with the 12-3 vibration that you must observe, right? But there is the part of the serenity prayer that says hold on, let me find it again. I have it right here. I, for some reason, can never remember it. Says to accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change the things that I can. So this is the part of the courage to change the things that I can. What is within your purview to change? What can you do? Crisis in action square. How can you utilize your creative abilities to make the world a better place? You know, and what does the earth have to say to us? If we look back at the initial conjunction, right, because this synodic cycle starts with that conjunction. The initial conjunction happened on January 20th of 2021. And of course, we all remember that that was the inauguration of Joe Biden. It actually, the inauguration occurred, let's see, before this happens. This happens at 3:38 p.m. And we can see the initial conjunction was at 7 degrees of Taurus. And now the crisis in action square is occurring at 14 degrees Taurus Leo. Let's see what the Sabian symbols are. So the initial conjunction, January 20th, 2021, is a 26-8 vibration. 8 is about as you sow, so shall you reap. The 26/8 is the page of wands, messages. It occurred at 7 degrees of Taurus. It says, a woman of Samaria at the ancestral well. The meeting are the traditional past and the creative spirit pointing to the future. A new quality of being is revealed, which renders old patterns obsolete. So we can't do it the way we've always done it. It will not work. We need new ideas, very Uranian. The Sabian symbol for 14 degrees of Taurus, this is where Uranus is. On the beach, children play while shellfish grope at the edge of the water. The keynote here is returning to simpler joys for revitalization. In a crisis in action square to Mars at 14 degrees of Aquarius. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on. That should be 14 degrees of Leo. I have to make sure I have the right thing here. Hold on one second. I want to make sure that I'm reading the right Sabian symbol. I believe I'm reading the wrong Sabian symbol. So ignore what you see and just listen to my voice. It says a human soul seeking opportunities for outward manifestation, the yearning for self-actualization, the yearning for self-actualization. Behind many rhythms and drives of individual existence, beyond the child, the adult, and the old man stands a soul seeking always to manifest itself through the personality. This is the transpersonal urge of the spirit expressing itself in many ways during the whole lifespan. But most avenues are blocked, and the soul waits until the soul can wait no longer. Then comes a dramatic release, which may mean a joyous carnival or madness. And the key word here is, let's see, let the soul speak out. Allow the power of the true tone of your being manifest itself smoothly, easily, and unobstructed, or expect a variety of consequences. Let the soul manifest. Let the soul manifest. Wow, that's very powerful. So we can just imagine. That is my birthday. Remember I said that? Okay. Let it go. Let it go. Oh, sorry. No, that's going to drive you crazy. Sunday, July 4th, 2021 is a 16-7 vibration. This is the tower. This is the tower. The moon is in Taurus, and it's America's birthday. Happy birthday, America. So this is America. This is going to be America's personal tower year. Tower year. I don't want you to get scared about that. The tower card is really about understanding who we really are, our authentic self as Americans. In fact, the vibration, the word America, which vibrates to a 32.5, its vowels add up to a 16.7. Is that right? Its vowels add up to a 16.7, and its consonants add up to a 16.7. So the word America, inner and outer, 16.7, together 32.5. And the 32.5 is the path of life for America, but it is also the shadow of America. And so this is an opportunity for us to heal our shadow. And of course, we're going through Pluto return, right? We're in the middle of a Pluto return. It isn't exact until next year, but we're in it. We've been in it since about 2017. Incidentally, the year that Trump took office. And his soul is a 16.7. So, and of course, we just had a building collapse in Florida, tower year. Waking people up to the possibility. And what are we talking about? We're talking about infrastructure, right? And we just had, and there was a one of those bridges that go over the highway, but it's a walking bridge that came tumbling down in Washington on the same day, Washington, D.C., on the same day that the Surfside came, the building in Surfside, Florida came down. Wake up, people. This is about waking up. The tower is asking us to wake up to our true selves. America, wake up to your true self. Who are you really? It takes introspection. 7 is an introspective number. So if we want to kind of get an idea of what might be coming up for America with this tower year, the last 2 times America was in a tower year, and actually maybe even the first time America was in a tower year as a personal year vibration, I'd have to look that up. Yeah, was 2003 and then 2012. And of course, 2003, we got into Iraq. In 2012, we had the shooting of the children in Connecticut, which was a very, very dark time. And other things happened in 2012 as well. But those are the 2 things that sort of stick out. And the grief and the suffering that caused. Let's do it differently this time, folks. Let's do it differently. I will do something on America, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Monday, the 5th, 2021, we have a 17.8 vibration. The moon shifts from Taurus into Gemini. We have the sun making a waxing sextile to Uranus. Waxing sextiles are about opening the lines of communication. And when we're dealing with Uranus, we're dealing with the higher mind. We're dealing with opening up to our individuated unconscious. Individuated unconscious. So expect visions, things to pop into your head. This is an opportunity for you to move on those and work with them. On July 6th, the moon moves into Gemini, and we have Mercury making a square to Neptune at 24 degrees of Gemini Pisces. This is a crisis in action. Mercury and Neptune, Mercury likes delineation, right? It likes to name things. It likes information. It likes clear, concise. Mercury likes to put things in little boxes, right? This goes here, this goes there, like the Dewey Decimal System of astrology. I should do Dewey's chart. I bet he had a pretty powerful Mercury. And Neptune is the complete opposite of that. Neptune is dissolution, things dissolving away, boundaries dissolving. How do these two planets work together? There's a certain amount of faith that it takes, and yet there's also a certain amount of discernment necessary, because this crisis in action, which gets the ideas moving. We need to imagine new solutions to our problems. So doing that while staying sort of grounded. So being idealistic and being grounded is required at this time. And that's not an easy balance to have. We can sometimes, imagine something that would be Neptune, and we go a little bit too far because we're not keeping our feet on the ground. So this is a very interesting aspect to be occurring at this time. And at the same day, on the same day, Venus opposes Saturn. And it's opposing Saturn. Venus and Saturn are at the same degrees that Mars and Saturn were at, right? That 13 degrees of Leo Aquarius. So the Venus-Saturn opposition is the fruition of seeds that were planted at the Venus-Saturn conjunction. That occurred at 6 degrees of Aquarius on February 6th. That was a month after the insurrection of January 6th. That vibration on that day was a 13-4, which is the death card, right? The Scorpio vibration. So I'm going to just move on. I'm going to come back to this, but I want to move on to the Mercury-Neptune first, and then we'll talk about Venus. So Mercury-Neptune, here's the first quarter square. Here's Neptune up here at 24 degrees in the 10th house. And we have Mercury here at, 24 degrees, right, in the first house. This is the energy of this square is first quarter, right? Because Mercury is moving away from Neptune. This is a crisis in action. I feel like with Neptune here in the 10th house, the 10th house in a mundane chart is the president. And of course, Mercury is transportation. This could very well be some sort of infrastructure thing that's happening, in that way. The 10th house and the first house are cardinal houses. So we're dealing with initiating something new. So there's this, it's as if the old stuff can't hold water and we have to go into the old way does work. And it reminds me the other day that we bombed, I think it was Iraq, and was it or Syria and Iraq or something? We went in and we just bombed it. Now, I'm sure they had a good reason. I'm sure there was something going on that they wanted to stop. But the idea of dropping a bomb from the sky onto somebody's head is very old school. And when I heard about it, there was a initial, there was I want to say a guttural discontent with that. Like that is not what's going to get us out of this situation. We cannot just bomb people from the sky. We can't just drone them and that, while in its way very Aquarian, because it takes technology and it has to do with the sky, that is not going to build a safer world. It's going to create a more chaotic world. We have to find different ways of doing that. And that's what came to mind when I heard that. And I'm sure they had great reasons, and perhaps they saved many people by doing that sort of surgical strike. But it makes us look like bullies. And we have to come to terms with that. We, I think it happens in Iraq. We went into Iraq. We created the chaos there. And we have to be responsible. Remember, 2003 was a tower year. Okay. So we have that square. But the initial conjunction was here. Let's see if I can find it. This is even small for me. At 22 degrees of Pisces, right here. 22 degrees plus in the 4th house. Neptune is spirit and Mercury is communication. What is spirit communicating to us? And then in this case, what is spirit requiring us to do? What actions? What words do we need to say? What thoughts do we need to have? Right? How do we need to change our minds or work with our minds? Gemini is about communication. And the interesting thing about this is that the new moon that we had, the eclipse was within, well, it was at 20, and this is 20, 23, 24. So it's only 4 degrees away from the eclipse degree. And that eclipse degree wants us to communicate in a new way, move into the future in a new way, talk to one another, be able to agree to disagree to a certain extent, but keep the peace through that. It's no longer my way or the highway. It's let's fix the highway. Maybe it could be my way or the highway, but if the highways are buckling because of the heat, perhaps the highway is not an option. Let's look at the Sabian symbols for Mercury and Neptune. So the conjunction occurred at 22 degrees of Pisces. A prophet carrying tablets of a new law is walking down the slopes of Mount Sinai. So Spirit imbued us with a new ideas, right? New laws. The need to bring down to the level of everyday existence the clear realization made manifest in a great peak experience. The key word here is mandate. What has spirited mandate to us? Love one another. Easy enough. Jesus said it. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Love thy enemy. Turn the other cheek. That's going to be tough, especially here in America, where we tend to not do that. The square between Mercury and Neptune. Mercury is at 24 degrees of Gemini. Children skating over a frozen village pond. The use of inhibiting circumstances for the development of character and transcendent approach to its environment. Triumph over entropy. Entropy is disorder through inaction, right? Squaring Neptune at 24 degrees of Pisces. On a small island surrounded by a vast expanse of the sea, people are seen living in close interaction. The need to consciously accept one's own personal limitations in order to concentrate one's energies and to live in a centered and fulfilled life. Centralization. This is a little bit of mind your own business kind of thing. The interesting thing about 24 degrees of Pisces is this is the degree that Neptune will station retrograde, if it hasn't already. And I think Neptune's at station retrograde at this degree. I think it happens already. It's Neptune, so sometimes it eludes me. But this is also the degree of the initial conjunction between Saturn and Chiron. That happens in 1966, right in the middle of the Vietnam War, when we were embroiled in something else we probably shouldn't have been embroiled in. And we had the second of three exact sextiles between Saturn and Chiron, and that was the day of the collapse in Florida. So again, we're being given hints here, guys. We're being given hints. So let's look at Venus and Saturn. Back to Venus and Saturn. I just wanted to sort of talk about that Mercury Mercury square. So let's actually, we're going to go back and go to the Sabian symbols, and then we'll look at the chart. Well, we'll at least look at the initial Sabian symbol. So we're back to, we're talking about the Venus. I don't want to confuse you. We're talking about the Venus-Saturn opposition, right? But the initial conjunction of Venus and Saturn occurred on the 6th of February, a month after the insurrection. The vibration was a 13.4, which is about change and rebuilding, and it was at 6 degrees of Aquarius. It says a masked figure performs ritualistic acts in a mystery play. The individual's involvement in long-established patterns of activity aiming at releasing collective power. Collective power. We can do this together, folks. And we can do it together in America, and we can do it together in the world, but we must work together to save ourselves and our planet. The individual's involvement, I said that, transpersonal responsibility. You're not just responsible for yourself. You're responsible for the earth. You're responsible for each other. You're responsible for, we are all in this together. The earth may survive this, but we won't. So let's get our shit together, folks. The conjunction of Venus and Saturn is the beginning of the cycle of building the structures for our current values. In Aquarius, those values are humanitarian. Okay, now let's go to the Sabian symbols for this opposition. Now, we've already seen these Sabian symbols because this was the same Sabian symbols for Saturn and Mars, right? So we have Venus at 13 degrees of Leo. That's the old sea captain rocking himself on a porch of his cottage. The quieted mind's recollection of crises and joys long past. But I want to read what else Dane Rogers says about this. It says the sea captain has steered the ship of his ego consciousness through seas and storms, maintaining the integrity of his individual selfhood while in close contact with the collective unconscious. Sea. Now retired, he may try to distill wisdom from his experience and from his victories over elemental forces. The swing of the child consciousness has now become a rocking chair from which one can contemplate past as well as present scenes, gently moving as waves roll over the shore. Peace at last. Quiet recollection. And the symbol for 13 degrees of Aquarius, the barometer, the ability to discover basic natural facts that allow us to plan in advance for action. And this is what Dane Rogers says about this. Here we are no longer dealing with the ascent or descent, but with natural laws which involve causal relationships and the passage of one's natural condition into another. The barometer registers air pressure, and the change of pressure today gives us some indication of what the weather will be like tomorrow. In a sense, this is a modern scientific equivalent of an archaic prognostication through omens. Likewise, animals grow a more or less thick fur in early autumn according to whether the winter will be more or less severe. Planning for the near future is possible because the potential or seed of the future is already operating in the core of the presence. It was 116 degrees in Portland, Oregon yesterday. Okay, let's look at the chart. So here is the chart of the initial conjunction. The initial conjunction, we have Venus and Saturn here in that second house. The second house is our resources. It's our relationship to ourself. It is the house that is naturally ruled by Venus. It's also, you know, Venus is also the divine feminine. What is the divine feminine saying? And here we have the opposition. And interestingly enough, the opposition is in the same um, houses. The ascendant for this is 24 degrees of Aquarius. Let's go back and see what the ascendant was for the Mars opposition. 1 degree, 2 degrees of Aquarius. Is this right? Nope, sorry, that's the first quarter square. Again, Aquarius. Aquarius keeps coming up though, doesn't it? Oh, Leo. So the ascendants for these things are Leo, Aquarius. For Mars-Saturn, the ascendant's in Leo. For Venus-Saturn, the ascendant is in Aquarius. Wow. So there you go, guys. That's pretty. I don't know if that's intense to me. It's as if the universe is saying, "Hey, guys, we're in the Aquarian age. Start acting like it." So, all right. So we do have a couple more things to look at. I told you these first 2 weeks were amazing. Wednesday, July 7th. The moon is in Gemini. Wednesday, July 7th is a 19-1 vibration. That is the sun card. Right? The sun will come out tomorrow. The sun will come out on the 7th. Thursday, July 8th is a 20/2 vibration. This is the judgment card, right? The rising up from the dead. The horn of Gabriel, rootin' and tootin'. We have the moon in Cancer. We have Mercury making it in conjunct to Pluto, mental adjustments needed around our desire and nature. And we have the second part of the Venus configuration, Venus square Uranus, a crisis in action planted at the Venus-Uranus conjunction, which we just looked at, which occurred on April 22nd. Oh, did we? No, we didn't look at that. I'm sorry. No, we didn't. Sorry, which occurred on April 22nd, 2021. That's a 13-4 vibration at 11 degrees of Taurus. The Sabian symbol for 11 degrees of Taurus is a woman watering flowers in her garden. The development of the powers of the mind on which ego consciousness is based. What is in your garden, and are you nurturing it? Is the question we need to ask. Here is that conjunction that we just talked about, Venus and Uranus, right here at 11 degrees. It was in the 6th house. The 6th house, this is for Washington, D.C. And I'm sorry I keep bringing up Washington, D.C., but this is a pretty potent month for the United States in that 6th house of health and the military. We need to, if we're going to get involved in some military thing, we have to really think about it because it's going to have big ramifications. We'll see. And here's Venus square Uranus right here. We have, let's see, Venus up here in the 9th house and Uranus in the 7th house in Taurus with a Scorpio ascendant. Venus in the 9th house is a love of the truth. Uranus in the 7th house is an awakening around the need to communicate, the need of diplomacy, right? This would be, if we were going to take any action at this time, diplomacy would be the best action to take with this chart. But this is a crisis in action. And so what actions are we going to take? And so to answer that question, perhaps, on July 9th, we have a new moon in the sign of Cancer. It's at 19 degrees of Cancer. The vibration for that day is a 21-3, which is the World card, endings and beginnings. It is associated with Saturn, responsibility. Something, we're giving birth to something new here. The 12-3 vibration in the tree of life is located on the path between Yesod and Malkuth. It is the birth canal. And so we are giving birth, we're literally giving birth to something in the sign that's associated with the mother. We incarnate through Cancer. 19 degrees of Cancer, a priest performing a marriage ceremony. The ritualization of productive interpersonal relationships. This scene symbolizes the profound need for referring the interplay and relatively permanent and productive union of all polarities to some third factor which either includes or transcends and gives spiritual meaning to the relationship. Sanction. We need to work together. In the chart of Washington, D.C., this begins in the the 6th house of service. It's interesting because it's the house of the military, it's the house of medicine, but it's also the house of world service. How are we to serve the world? Is it dropping bombs on people's heads? Is it taking over countries or disrupting their process so that we can have the resources of that country? We're having our Pluto return. We have to look at that Pluto in Capricorn in the 2nd house if we're looking at the Sibley chart. But just even if we're not looking at the Sibley chart and we're going by the 1776 date, Pluto is in Capricorn. Pluto in Capricorn is the legacy of slavery. It's the legacy of taking over people's land by force. Is that what America's about? Okay. So that's where I'm going to end. So that felt pretty powerful to me. Hey, I'm just reading the signs, folks. We'll see. So I hope you enjoyed that. Like and subscribe. I know it was a little bit maybe heady and a little bit technical in some cases. If you think that this information is important for people to hear, please share my stuff. Please like my videos. If you like them, people will see them. If you say, hey, that was great, and you go on, then people won't see them. And I can't say that my voice is the most important voice for people to hear, but it is a voice worth listening to. We need new ways of responding to life and working with life and working with the natural laws. We can, if we just focus on bringing light in, miracles will happen. We have to apply ourselves, and we have to be coming from the right heart space. So from my heart space to yours, I love you all. Love you, love you, love you. Much love. Namaste. I will be back to talk about the 2nd half or the rest of July. It's not nearly as intense as the beginning, but we'll have to see how this one works out, right? I love you guys. Namaste.